We explain how the Manhattan Project changed the world. By 1943, the race to build an atomic weapon was in full swing. The Soviet scientists had gotten off to a late start due to the invasion of the Nazis, but resources had been freed up after Stalingrad, and the program was able to pick up from the 1938 Han fission experiment. It was to be led by the head of the Soviet secret police Lavrentiy Beria, scientist Igor Kurchatov, and General Boris Vanakov. Unlike the Manhattan Project, it had a small staff and mostly worked to create uranium and solve atomic issues. The Soviets had a bigger assist through the spies that they had planted within the Manhattan Project. One of whom was Klaus Fuchs, who had worked the Manhattan Project from its beginnings at Columbia University to Los Alamos, passing secrets through his handler Sonia. The Manhattan Project, so named because it started in New York at Columbia University, was organized by Colonel Leslie Groves of the Army Corps of Engineers. As stated before, the first chain reaction occurred in an abandoned squash court under the stadium at the University of Chicago, using 6 tons of uranium. Knowing it would take such a large amount of nuclear material, Groves proposed a nationwide building plan that would include planned communities in Tennessee to separate the uranium and another one in Washington to manufacture plutonium. The bombs would be built on an old boys' school in Los Alamos, New Mexico, and a special B-29 fighter group would deliver the bombs and would be based on the island of Tinian. Planned communities were built at Oak Ridge, Tennessee and Hanford, Washington, and the workers were selected for their ability to work under pressure and keep secrets. The locations were chosen for their isolation and their distance from major centers of population, in case there was ever an accident. The Los Alamos labs would be headed up by Dr. Robert Oppenheimer, who many in the military had objected to at first due to his alleged communist associations. Not everything went smoothly. The copper magnets at Oak Ridge designed to separate the uranium failed due to wartime copper shortages, and the Treasury Department had to ship in a whole lot of silver to make up for it. The planes of the 509th had to be redesigned in Nebraska to be able to carry a 10,000-pound bomb, fly at high altitude, and in long range. The bomber group itself trained in Nebraska and then in Utah and were led by Paul Tibbets. They then went to Tinian to wait for the bomb and instructions on where they were going to drop it. 2 types of bombs were created at Los Alamos, a gun type that fired the materials at each other and an implosion bomb that compresses the elements into critical mass and its explosion. In mid-April 1945, a committee of British, Canadian, and American scientists and military leaders met to outline 17 targets in Japan. And on July 16, 1945, all the Project Manhattan teams met at Los Alamos for the Trinity test. The explosion measured 18.6 kilotons, or 37 million pounds of force. No blast measuring device in 200 feet of the tower survived. With the success of Trinity, the parts and materials were shipped off in different planes and boats to Tinian and assembled. With no surrender after the Potsdam Declaration, the Enola Gay would drop Little Boy a gun bomb on Hiroshima. With still no surrender, Boxcar would drop an implosion bomb named Fat Man on Nagasaki. Japan would surrender and the atomic age would begin.